keeping in mind your goals to your jobs. So they met with me, and I encouraged them to keep so I didn't. That's it. That's all. Yeah, so that's why I remember when we first sold last year, you were nervous about what was going to happen, and so that's why I encouraged you. So they have been working to determine which one to sell. Both of them. I don't know. I got one that's great for me. That's 6, 7 years like 15 years ago. Yeah, so they bought it. Yeah, so they couple thousand acres of key space so they live down there, but they're permanently working in the Spartanburg area, and so very close friends with Lanes. So Charles,
Not with me. Not even you had a discussion behind the scenes. Canadian shopping together. I saw you on the news earlier. Don't get up.
You got as much as anybody else on Facebook, man. Look at Jackie.
I've never
busy. Lots going on. Were you at last week's? How are you? Yeah, the overlay I was very surprised with it. Which is good. No, I didn't know if you was in. It was so incredible because it was all stadiums and it was hard to I was wondering if a lot of cars would just
So should I put that there must be stuff in the bathrooms and everything? Because he is. Still my friend? I'm right here. Sarah has it outside at the moment if she hasn't come in with it yet. Sarah's running around with it with her dad because you're with somebody up. So I had it inside. Had it with that. Oh, may or may not want to speak my oldest son was as good as college education when he was a child religion. I should say it that way because when we started child religion, there was none of these books. There was not. Well, he's graduated from my other they had tons of notes for Chinese speaking. It's not very nice, but they're really wrong. Mayor just walked in ask you how you are. Just say I tell you Yep, made my day. All right, let me get where I was going to ask. What? Reminds me but they, they each one have their time. They flip flop. No, I have no problem with that. You want to ask it? If you want to, I'll let you ask it. Maybe when somebody asks you. That's what my wife does. Yeah.
That's good. All right, folks, let's see if we can get started here. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for all the commission members coming and members of citizens of Johns Island and elsewhere. Thank you for being with us this evening. We'd like to start with a little prayer and a pledge of allegiance to the flag, and Representative Brown offered to say a prayer for us this evening. Representative Brown.
Most holy and everlasting Father, we praise and thank you for this day of life. We thank you for allowing this committee to assemble here today in your name and to do your work. Now, guide us, Lord. Strengthen us, Lord. Give us the ability to do your will for the people of this county, this state, and this community. Help us to do your will in your way. Put the words and thoughts in our minds so that everything we do and say will be pleasing to you and a benefit to everyone, to the world as a whole. Teach us to be leaders you have called us to be. Hear our prayer, Lord, as we begin to do your work. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I have a seat up there, but I'm going to stand out here if y'all don't mind, because the light from that projector was right in my eyes. And number two, I hope this evening, commission members, that we're going to have a healthy discussion amongst y'all, and we're going to have a session for public input as well, but I want to have a healthy discussion, so I think it'll help me just be able to see everybody from here. Now, before we start on talking about any projects or infrastructure projects, I would like to ask Joel Evans with Charleston County Director of Planning, give us just a little update. I know they've held a couple of sessions for the Maybank overlay corridor, and they had another by popular demand because the first one we couldn't fit everybody in the room. So Joel, if you could give us an update on that.
Sure. So yeah, Charleston County and city staff are working jointly on a Maybank Highway overlay zoning district for all the parcels that front along Maybank Highway. And this includes James Island as well. On July 30th, we had our first meeting on James Island at the Senior Center, and that was very well attended. And then on the 31st, we had our overlay meeting for the Johns Island portion of Maybank Highway, and that was very well attended. We had that at Berkeley Electric Co-op. I do apologize for anybody that tried to attempt to go to that meeting. As the mayor said, it was very popular. We didn't realize how many people were going to show up, so we had a follow-up meeting of the exact same presentation and material at the Johns Island High School last Thursday, the 23rd, and that was very well attended as well, and that is great. We love that. That's what we want. We want public participation in this. That's the best way to get a successful plan. We have a survey online that's still up, by the way, and it will be up until Friday. If you go to www.charlestoncounty.org, go to Planning and Zoning page, and you'll see a tab to click for the Johns Island and James Island Maybank Highway Overlay, so you can participate in that survey. There's a series of questions. It's very important that we get as many people to participate in that survey. I will say that is very well participated as well. We've got almost 2,000 people so far that have participated in that survey. And there's a questionnaire at the end too for general comments. And I've scanned through some of them, and they're really constructive, and they're very important for our elected officials, both the city and the county, to know what the community's desires are for the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay, which, by the way, I do want to emphasize, it is a corridor overlay zoning district. So that project is about is specifically about land use along the corridor of Maybank Highway on Johns and James Island. And for the county's portion of it, I showed the maps for any of those who came to any one of those meetings. We've identified nodes along Main Road. The city's not going to be participating in that because there's no city jurisdiction up there. There's no sense, there's no reason for them to participate in that. But we have identified nodes along the packing shed area and a couple of other commercial areas. So where we are with that, the survey will be up until Friday, and then we will shut the survey down, and we will be having stakeholder meetings with property owners and with business owners along the corridor and other departments, the city staff departments and county staff departments and DOT and everyone else that we can think of to help us with this plan. We're going to be doing that September and October, and then we want to bring the results of the survey and the stakeholder comments back to the public in early November, and we will meet probably at the Johns Island High School. That's going to be my first choice, I think, and to show the public the results of what everyone said, and with a really rough framework of what a potential ordinance could be. And the reason for that, though, also is we want to make sure that when we show you the results of the survey and from the stakeholders that we're all talking the same language. We're going in the same direction that we heard from y'all these last few meetings. So that's it for me. And so look out for notifications for a meeting coming up in November for the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay. Thank you, Mayor.
So Joel, if I may ask a question, and I don't know if y'all would find this helpful. So at the end of the day, when you're all done, you're collecting, by the way, how many people participated so far in the survey? So thank y'all for participating. 2,000 people, that's very good engagement. And then you're going to have the stakeholder meetings, the property owners, come back to the public one more time and have an ordinance ready. So describe for us what will the final product be like, and what will it mean to us?
So yes, so this meeting in November, we will be showing you what the results of the survey and the stakeholder participation, refine it a little more, show the outline of the ordinance. Then we'll go back, the staffs from the city and the county, and refine that even further from that input and then we will go back out to the community after that. Well, we'll do this as many times as we think is necessary to make sure that we're getting the right message. The result of that, to answer your question, Mayor, is going to be an ordinance that both the city and the county will adopt. We will present it for adoption to our respective councils, planning commission recommendations first and then councils, to make sure that we have a comprehensive and cohesive and consistent land use that reflects what the residents have told us, what they want to see along the corridor, and so that there's not a break in jurisdiction, because the maps, if I had shown, if we have it here, I don't think we have it, but the jurisdictional maps along Maybank Highway on Johns Island, about 50% is the city and about 50% is the county. So it is highly important for the development of that corridor that we have the same or similar, very consistent development standards, so that we don't have this shopping around, number one, from developers going from one jurisdiction to another, but really more important, that we have a really comprehensive and consistent development plan for the corridor, for the land use, and really for the aesthetics of the island as well.
Well, thank you for that update and for that kind of summary of where we're going with all of that. And so, so next we're going to talk about some of the infrastructure projects that are already funded. Some are just proposed. Most of these, you know, y'all don't know about. They've been out there for a while, but we thought we'd put them all together. And most of them, frankly, are roadway improvements. And luckily we have Devry with the county. Here she is over here, and Josh with the highway department is on our commission here, and Keith Benjamin, who's the director of traffic and transportation with the city of Charleston. Now, I just want to share with everybody one more time, and I think y'all know this, but just to be clear, we're talking about these projects, and we share what's been funded, what hasn't been, and talk about the priorities going forward, what this commission would like to see in terms of priorities and what y'all would like to see. But I want you to realize that the city of Charleston, and I guess is some of the past history of what got done and what didn't get done, the city of Charleston doesn't receive a dime, a penny to build a road. And that happens with the half cent that goes to the county, and with the gasoline tax you pay when you buy a gallon of gasoline, and that goes to the state highway department. So of course some of that money in a formula comes back to the county, but actually none of it comes to the city of Charleston. But we're very involved in a planning point of view and approval point of view, Mr. Benjamin and his department. But when it comes to actual funding a roadway, we look to the county and the state. Now, that being said, Mr. Benjamin, I do want to let y'all know, was thoughtful enough, and I believe the city was, to conduct a citywide transportation plan, which we just completed and passed by city council. And one of the 13 priorities that was listed in that citywide plan was in fact improvements of Maybank Highway, in addition to whatever improvements have occurred to date. So it's pegged as one of our top priorities. And why it's important, as opposed to the way the city might have done it in the past, is that we did this in conjunction with the COG, the Council of Governments, the Regional Transportation Plan. And why that's important is once you get on that list, those projects get on the list, they do become eligible for the state funding, for the guide share funding that's coming from that state gasoline tax. And so it's not just throwing a wish on the wall, it is putting it in a pipeline that will enable it to be eligible for highway funding at one point. Did I get that right, Keith? Yes, sir. So thank you. And so Maybank Highway is on that list. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over for a few minutes to Christopher Morgan and the city's planning department, and go through some of these projects that are on our list. Christopher?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, committee members and everybody who's here tonight. Appreciate you all coming out tonight. I'm going to try to move over here, and hopefully I won't give anybody any feedback, and I won't have my back to you either, and we'll kind of go through this. You all, committee members, have all this in the packet in front of you, but the public will be able to see up here on the screen, and we've got the agenda that I think everybody has seen already for tonight, and then we've got public comment that's coming up. So now we're moving into this discussion of prioritization of Johns Island infrastructure projects. And this is the chart overall that shows all of these projects that are in various plans that have been discussed over the years, things like that. And we'll kind of go through some of those, and then we'll have a little bit more detail about some of the projects in images after we go through the chart. But first off here, we have the chart with the in front of here, and my eyes are not as good as I thought they were going to be here. Maybank and River Road intersection improvements is the top line here. And I know if I'm having trouble reading it, I know you all are having trouble reading it. So we will have this available for everybody. We'll put it online. It'll be on the city's website, and we'll try to get it to the county too. So just bear with us as far as our explanations here for some of the things that are hard to see. There are a whole lot of projects here. Thank you, sir. So again, Maybank and River Road intersection improvements, those are now funded by Charleston County, and you see that right here. It's estimated to cost $550,000. I'm not going to get too much into the details. I'm not going to get too much into the details of these specific projects. We can always come back to these. I'm assuming that a lot of people know what these are, but this is the dual left turn lanes from River Road onto Maybank Highway at that intersection. Next is the northern pitchfork, which has been talked about a good bit, and we'll show you an image of that in just a minute. But it, again, is funded by Charleston County. There was recently a vote by Charleston County on that. It's a $44,100,000 project that is now funded. Yes, sir. $4.1 million project, excuse me. Yes. Then we move on to the southern pitchfork, which we'll again show you an image of in just a minute. But these are both at the intersection of River and Maybank. It's a $8.5 million project that does not have funding at present. It also needs right-of-way acquisition or donation, so that's one of the things that's holding that one up. Then the Johns Island plan that the city put together in 2007 had a concept for a connected system of two-lane roads along the Maybank corridor between Cane Slash and Maybank and Brownswood, and it would create an 8-mile system of connected roads. At today's pricing, looks like it would be about a $41 million project, $41.5 million project. It is not funded. Then from the county, again, the main road improvements, Section A, which goes from US 17 and Main Road down to River Road on Johns Island, and that project includes a new interchange at Main and 17, and that's a $82 million project. Endeavour can give more detail on that if there are more specific questions about it. We'll have some images of it too. Then we've got main road improvements.
Funded or not funded? Is that funded or not funded?
It is funded. I'm sorry, it's hard to read on this, but all three of these are funded via the $195 million total that's been allocated from the half-cent sales tax. So the second part of this is main road improvements from River Road to Maybank Highway, and that is part of that as well. Actually going all the way from River Road to Betsy Harrison Parkway is about $113 million. Again, it's funded. And the section C of that is from Bohicket Road improvements, which is essentially from Maybank to the Betsy Harrison Parkway. So it's a very big project. It's a widening of Main Road. It's about a little bit over 12 miles there. Then a project that I'm sure everybody in this room is very familiar with, the Mark Clark Extension, connecting Mark Clark Expressway in James Island to Mark Clark Expressway in West Ashley. Ballpark figure here, I think $725 million. It is not funded. I think there's some commitments and non-commitments, things like that. We can discuss that a little bit further, but we're putting in the non-funded at present category here. And then another project that I'm sure a lot of you all have been familiar with over the years, the Cross Island Parkway, the Cross Island Greenway, has had some different names. It's a parkway connecting River Road near where 526 would be, and its exits to the Betsy Harrison kind of via across the middle of Johns Island. And it is estimated, the last estimates that we have information on are about $50 million. It's not funded.
Before you go, next page, can I ask you on-
Yes, sir.
On the main road improvement section, do you know what the approximate split is between B and C for that 102?
Yeah, there are some microphones there. You might have to turn that on.
Are we on?
There we go.
It was just a clarification question. On the main road improvements, B and C, the 113 million, do you know what the split is?
Devery, do you know that number?
Yeah, we have not split those out yet, just because we just got approval to move forward with segmenting the project. So we have not split out segment B or C yet. We will have the engineer do that once he moves forward with segment C.
You don't have a sense of what C is costing versus B?
I do not yet, and again, it's all going to be controlled by the NEPA process, but he'll be able to give us an estimate for about 6 months.
Representative Brown?
Thank you. On the southern pitfall,
Yes, sir.
that 8.5 million, is that include the acquisition cost of right-of-ways as well? Is that part of it?
It runs 7.5 million, so I'm assuming that they bumped it up $1 million to include the right-of-way acquisition. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to the next page. Okay, so the Main, Chisholm, and River Road intersection improvements, and that is from our citywide transportation plan. It is not funded. It does have an estimated cost of $900,000, but it's safety and capacity improvements at those intersections. It potentially could be done in conjunction with the the Main and Main Road projects, but we wanted to separate it out because it was one of the things that was in our citywide transportation plan. And then, as the mayor mentioned also, the bigger project, the Maybank Highway corridor improvements, getting a divided 4-lane facility with planted medians, multi-use paths, and high visibility crosswalks, and then also working to connect this with the town and country system that's in the 2007 Johns Island plan. That is tentatively estimated at $31.8 million. Again, some of this depends on cost of right-of-way and other things like that. Then we move off. Yes, sir.
I suggest we go next to the roadway.
Sure.
Google Maps and just do all the road stuff
Okay.
first, and then we come
Absolutely.
back to the other item.
That's a very good way to do it. Okay, so on this image, we have, this is Johns Island in general. This is the Stono River here. This is Main Road over here. I'm going to focus first on the areas that are outlined in red here, which is the northern pitchfork, which is this little zigzag, which comes in out of Fenwick Hall, LA, off of Maybank Highway. This is Maybank right here. It's a short little roadway, a little bit less than a mile, I believe. So that is the northern pitchfork project. Then we have the Maybank at River Road intersection, which is the dual left turns coming from Maybank, from River onto Maybank right there. And that is funded now. It's not under construction yet. They're just wrapping up the 3rd lane on Maybank, and that is the Maybank Highway Improvements Phase 2, which is wrapping up in the next few weeks, correct, Devery? Looks like the final surfaces are going on. So, okay, so that's an exciting development there. Then the Mark Clark extension, again, most of you all probably know about this, but just for those of you who don't, this is the Mark Clark on James Island, connecting with the James Island connector that goes into downtown at Folly Road, coming across on the north side of the James Island County Park. There would be an interchange in the vicinity of Johnson Scott Road that would come out to River Road here, and then it would cross over Maybank Highway, and there would be another interchange in the vicinity of Rushland Landing coming into River Road, somewhere in the vicinity of Murraywood in general up there, and it would continue on into West Ashley, connecting with the Mark Clark where it terminates at Savannah Highway at present. So that is that project. Then we have Main Road, Bohicket project, the different segments. Segment A is up here from Bees Ferry to River Road. And that would include upgrading of the Main Road facility and overpass, in the vicinity of 17 and Main Road, and other improvements to make sure that the rising waters that come in that area would not impact Main Road either. Then we have Main Road and Bohicket project. This is the segment B, which is from River Road down to Maybank. In this area here, going past the Johns Island High School and other parts of northern Main Road. And then we have Main Road, Main and Bohicket Road segment C, which goes from Maybank down Bohicket to the Betsy Harrison Parkway. Again, all of this would be extra 2 lanes on the roadway, and it would have a whole process that they would go through that Deborah could give you more detail on, but this is where this project is. Other road projects, the Maybank Town and Country. This is straight from the 2007 plan, the concept that there would be town centers, 3 different town centers along Maybank, where you would have a little bit more of a small town type of feel to the roadway with buildings a little bit closer to the street. Then you would transition to more of a rural or country area with more trees, wider medians in between those little town sections. And these are just some cross sections of those. The country section here with the canopies and hopefully trees in the middle of the median, and then the town sections where you have buildings a little bit closer to the road, like is shown in that image. And then the connected road system, which again is from the 2007 Johns Island plan, which Maybank is in the middle of this. I know it's hard to see. There's a series of roads in green that would connect different neighborhoods. They would be built by the developers, as well as segments that are not built by developers could be built, by local government to connect key portions. Already we've seen a segment that connects Cane Slash up to Maybank built, and a few other segments in here that there's now one, I believe, that connects Maybank and Cane Slash in the vicinity of the Builder's First Source as well. So a whole system there that would let you get around some of your daily activities on Johns Island without having to get out on some of the main roads that would take some of the pressure off some of the main roads like Maybank and River Road. And then the Cross Island Parkway, which has been in various stages of proposals for many years. This is the Mark Clark here with the Johnson Scott Road area off-ramp, and River Road is right here. The airport is here. So this would be a connection, hopefully, to where that off-ramp came that would then go through the center of the island where there are fewer houses to have less impact on housing and impact fewer properties. And be a facility that would have limited access. So it would be, I guess in the past I'd heard people describe it as kind of like a colonial parkway from the Tidewater, Virginia region or something like that. But something that would let people get around Johns Island without having to impact the River Road or Main Road corridors. And I believe that is our boat. And then from our transportation plan, this is the Maybank image from the transportation plan of before, and then a Maybank image of after with the connected road system with widening to Maybank Highway itself and the other connected roads that help take some of that pressure off Maybank as well. And then finally the Main Road and River Road and Chisholm Road intersection, some concepts. This is currently how it configures, and then this would be a concept that came from the transportation plan of a roundabout there, as well as a kind of better T-shape here, helping to preserve the famous oak tree that's in that location, but also help the traffic get through a little bit faster and a little bit more safely as well. So we will jump back to the chart and just kind of go to some of the other projects, unless folks want to have questions.
And might just take a break and open it up to the commission members to talk about any of these roadway projects that we've talked about, number one, and number two, are there anything we've left out that needs to be prioritized? And number three, I guess it's easy to group them into 2 different groups. One group is those where we got the money already and they're funded, and so in a way it's just working the project. As you know, some of these things take a lot of time, but having the funding in place is a big deal. So if you look at the rest of it, those that aren't funded, I'm very interested to hear the commission's ideas, thoughts about where your priorities lie. Can I just open the floor? Mayor?
Yeah, well, certainly.
Let's use the microphone, so.
Yeah, certainly from my perspective, we clearly need assistance and relief at Main and 17. It is our artery out on evacuations. It has a propensity to flood, which obviously in the instance of a hurricane would be disastrous. So I think if you were to poll certainly my residents, that would be the first priority. I think as to the other funded projects, I would look at priorities based on need. By need, I mean, what are the traffic studies associated with each of those segments? What is the record of accidents on each of those segments? And I think you can form a matrix that at the end of the day is going to tell you how you should prioritize those.
Letting Josh and Devery would tell us that those kinds of studies are done and are in the works. Is that right, Josh or Devery?
For the funded projects, yes. For the funded projects, yes. We haven't done a traffic update on Baybanks since all these improvements have been done. And obviously, Cross Island Greenway, maybe that was 10 years ago, so they're not up to date by any means.
Right, and I assume that you wouldn't do both Main Road Improvement Segment C and the Cross Island. That's an either or.
All right, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the one of your project that's not funded, I think it's a priority on this island. When it comes to the Johns Island drainage study, you know, during a heavy rain, ditches flood, the property floods, and I think that's very much so needed, the drainage study for Johns Island.
We're going to get to those in just a minute.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to the road, it's my understanding that the Pitchfork, northern Pitchfork and the southern Pitchfork kind of works hand in hand together. So if you're only doing half of one, I think it still is a problem. So if we do the southern and the northern Pitchfork, I think they work hand in hand. And it works much simpler if they're done at the same time, or done together. And so I would recommend we fund that particular one as a priority.
I'm not going to disagree with you. We're going to have to talk to our county council about that. Mayor?
Yeah, I think to just build on and add to the Seabrook Mayor Ciancio's point, I think from our perspective, the two pinch points coming on and off the island at both ends of Johns Island are the primary concerns to us. So clearly dealing with the issues at Savannah Highway and Main Road, but also the intersection coming off the Storm Bridge, the north and south Pitchfork, along with whatever changes are going to occur to deal with the light system and the traffic system of River Road. But I think from the perspective of certainly the citizens of Keel and Seabrook, as we look at these roads, dealing with those two entry and exit points off the island are clearly, I think, the top priorities that we think need to be dealt with, both from the point of having the capacity to deal with the number of vehicles that are coming on and off the island, dealing with the public safety issues that we have if we ever have to try to evacuate all of the residents of Keel, Seabrook, Johns, and Guatemala Island. So those issues are clearly top priorities. I think the other reason I asked earlier about Part C on the Maybank, or I should say on the Main Road project, is, and we've looked at this issue of the Sea Island Greenway versus other alternatives for a lot of years. I think there are a lot of concerns from our perspective about both the doability of expanding Bohicket from Maybank to Betsy Kirsten, whether it really solves the capacity issues that we have. But more importantly, I think we're concerned about the impact that it has on the community itself. From our perspective, there are more severe environmental impacts there, the impact on the Grand Oaks, there's more impact on businesses, churches, residents. So from our perspective, while we've been very supportive of the changes on Main and at Savannah, the Part C project, I think, gives us some real concerns on whether that's the best way to move forward. And obviously, we do believe in Greenway should be a whole separate discussion. Wins out on all those counts.
And we won't know what those impacts are until the NEPA process is done. Yes, I just was explaining, we won't know what those impacts are until we're done with the NEPA process. And that will tell the story what the impacts will be.
So when you do the NEPA, maybe you'll find out that is correct. They look at the alternative, right?
They do to an extent, yes. And it'll look at environmental impacts, it will look at cultural impacts, it will look at all kinds of impacts. If you go to our website, we have the NEPA process explained on our website. The Charleston County is roads.charlestoncounty.org, and it explains a lot of the factors that are taken into account with the federal NEPA process.
Stands for
National Environmental Protection Act. Policy, I'm sorry.
All right.
Yes, sir, Thomas LeGree.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to address something about this Main Road Improvements Section 3, or Section C, and I'll address it to Ms. Devery, since there's not any elected officials from the County of Charleston here, I don't believe. Neither our county council lady or our chairman of the county council, so I'll address it to you, and hopefully you can take it back to them. Main Road Improvement Section C is not Main Road, it's Bohicket Road. And this has been that way since County Council put it on the ballot as widening Main Road from Bees Ferry to Betsy Kirsten, and County Council approved it and the voters approved it, and that was very, in my opinion, dishonest of County Council putting it on the ballot like that, because most people I've talked to, even the ones that voted for it, don't realize they voted to widen Bohicket Road. See, I'm even saying Main Road now. It's false advertising, and that needs to be changed to Bohicket Road widening. If you would please pass my thoughts, and I'm sure hope all y'all will call your county council person and tell them that too.
That's real. It is Bohicket Road there. Yeah, good point. Tim?
I want to underscore the importance of the drainage improvement consideration. I know the roads are taking front stage here, but
we're getting to the rest of the list in a minute.
But that's a vital thing that's also going to affect all of the infrastructure considerations. And also we've got development practices that exacerbate the flooding, and that needs to be addressed. None of these projects are on a fast track, and that needs to be a top priority because it is strategic in nature and it affects so many other considerations, the roads included. But I also want to underscore the statement about the Main Road and US 17. I've attended meetings for 10 years, and there's still confusion as of the other night about which road gets the flyover. Is it Main Road flying over US 17, or is it M70? I mean, and obviously US 17 has the higher traffic volume, and that should be the flyover. And we've got a template in Mount Pleasant at Bowman Road and US 17. So all of this should have been on a fast track a long time ago.
Thank you, Tim. So if I'm not mistaken, this main road at Savannah Highway also has to go through the NEPA process. So they'll study those environmental factors and other factors, and it won't be until that's done and the alternatives are studied until they know which road is going to fly over the other. But the good news is that they got money to do it. But I hope y'all know that going through a NEPA road construction project to just get through the environmental section takes how long?
For an EA, it's 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Segment A,
Yeah.
something like segment C, you could be looking at 7 to 9 years.
Yeah. So it's quite a process, folks, and you know, when our federal authorities tell us they want to shorten things, that would be a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Yes, Mayor. Use the mic. Cut it off. Testing.
Yeah, it clearly, the NEPA process, we all know, takes forever. And what I would encourage you to do in light of that, because we can't wait 9 years for a decision whether or not that project is going to proceed. As Mayor Weaver has suggested, we believe that the Cross Island is a viable alternative. We've got to have somebody taking a hard look at that, because just taking a look at the face of it, there's going to be less of an environmental impact, certainly less of an impact on homes, on churches, on trees, all the way down the line. I think the people that have been involved in developing the Cross Island have done a good job in identifying all of that. So I would very much encourage people to start looking at that as a viable alternative, instead of waiting 9 years to determine, gee, we can't do this project because of the environmental impacts.
Let's see, now, you just have to wait long enough. Abe, did you have something else?
What kind of realistic timeline do we have before we see any of these improvements completed?
Well, the first one up is going to be the northern Pitchfork, and it's funded, and it doesn't need a NEPA review at this point, does it, Deborah?
We do have to, construction plans will be complete in September for that project, and we will be submitting a core permit. We had met with the core. It's going to qualify with a general permit instead of an individual permit, which means about 3 to 4 months possibly for approval, which is a good thing. So that will be the next step. The intersection improvements, I hope next summer we'll have those underway. And then, of course, the 17 in Maine, 2 to 3 years for the NEPA process. And then we can talk to council about the pros and cons of going towards design build. And I will say, one more thing we are doing to try to expedite these federal processes is we did get approval to hire an employee for the Corps just to look at sales tax projects. So we are doing everything we can to expedite these processes.
So I guess my question really is when will we see when will one of them be completed? Like how many years from now?
Well, one's going to be completed in 2 weeks, so that's a good thing. The northern, I would say, 1.5 years. The intersection, 1.5 years. All of it depends on how long it takes to get these permits.
All right, 1.5 years sounds like the quickest we got.
Am I correct that the flyover in Mount Pleasant took 7 years from start to finish?
I don't know.
I believe that is correct.
And they went design build, so.
All right, any other, Mark?
So you talked about the northern Pitchfork at this point, but we keep omitting the southern Pitchfork. And as I understand it, the reason that it's not on the calendar is because the county hasn't funded it. What about the city?
Well, again, we don't have a funding source to build a road. We're going to talk about one in a little while, but we don't have one currently.
Well, you say you don't have a funding source that's dedicated to the roads. So, but you collect taxes, and general budget, add a line item for that one.
Councilmember Wagner? Councilmember Wagner, you want to submit that in the budget for next year and see how we do with it?
You got it. Put it down. I mean, the reason it's not being it's not on the drawing boards, it's because we're blaming the county for not funding it. That's what it is.
It's, the two funding sources are the county's half-cent sales tax, which was a voluntary tax that our citizens put upon themselves, you know, and the only mandated road tax is the gas tax.
But is there any reason that the city can't fund it, other than they just haven't thought to do so up until now?
I mean, we'd have to raise property taxes to start building roads.
How about an impact fee?
Well, we're going to talk about a funding source in just a few minutes when we get to funding sources, municipal improvement district. The thing about impact fees, Thomas, is that the state law has changed considerably since the time that Mount Pleasant, for example, put theirs in place, and it's very complicated. The state legislature makes it as hard as possible for a local jurisdiction to put an impact fee in place. But we believe the easier thing to do in this case is to propose a municipal improvement district.
Well, let the public know what we need to do at the state level. We all know Representative Brown. He's a wonderful person, does a great job for us here on Johns Island. And we will go to the state if we need to. But Johns Islanders are sick and tired of traffic. They're sick and tired of sitting in traffic. They're sick and tired of drainage, everything. If you need impact fees, let us know. We can go to the state legislature if we got to change the law.
We need impact fees.
All right, are y'all willing to go to the state legislature and ask for impact fees? Raise your hand.
You don't have to go to the state legislature. Just come to the delegation meeting. We have a road and bridges committee, and we'll meet on demand. If that's what you want to hear, we'll have a meeting, especially to accommodate the folk on Johns Island, and we'll honor your request.
That means that we could use some political influence from our state representatives to influence how some of that state highway funds are spent. Is that correct? All right. Let's take him up on the offer, folks. When is the next meeting?
Chair, happen to be Leon Stabanakis. Just take a phone call for me.
Okay.
Let me know that the folks on Johns Island want to meet.
We'll do it. Will you let him know? Okay. And if you'll let Aaron know. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Okay. Any other commissioner comments on roads? Nancy?
Is this on? Yes. Just a couple of comments. I concur with what others have said up here tonight. Mr. Jenkins talked about how the northern and southern go together. To me, on the list, the southern pitchfork looks like the fastest thing that could get built to have added capacity leaving the island. And of course, Main Road would help with that. But that's those are just my comments.
I concur, because I don't think it would be as complicated as those Main Road NEPA processes that we have to go through. We'd just be with the Corps of Engineers, right? Correct.
Isn't there $62 million left over in half-cent sales tax money from the original half-cent sales tax?
That I do not know. That I do not know. We can find out.
The question was, isn't there $62 million left over from the original half-cent sales tax that the county could dedicate to that? Well, I have a mic before we move on to drainage things. I wanted to ask Devery, the work that they're going to be finished in 2 weeks' time, is that going to include the smart light at River Road, Maybank?
There is no smart light. I don't know what you mean by smart light. We will be putting new loops in, so it will have loops. The loops are broken right now, and they're not going to be able to fix them until they pay, because they're going to keep on messing them up. And the city actually maintains that light, so they will be messing with it, making sure that it works at its best once we're done with the light.
It's not working now. The county has offered to pay $80,000 for the smart light. I just didn't know why they hadn't done it yet.
There was never a smart light. The city asked us if we would install a decorative signal at that intersection, and they asked us that within the last year. So we will be doing that with the intersection.
When it comes time for public comment, Mr. Mayor, I sure hope you let Mr. Rich Thomas and Ms. Catherine Pogue, who had that conversation with you and Steve Thigpen about that. The other thing, is there going to be a turn lane on the south side of River Road?
Correct. That's what the intersection improvements will provide. Two
No,
left
on the
turn-
south side of River Road.
We will pave about 170 storage lane we will pave.
Now, in 2 weeks?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
It's rough right now, yes.
Yeah, this is very rough.
So here's our lights man right here, Keith Benjamin.
Good evening, everybody. Just for knowledge basis, the city has a signal management agreement with the South Carolina DOT. So even though we talk about roadway ownership and some of the struggles with that, in terms of signal maintenance and obligations around timing and otherwise, the vast majority of that for build-outs are done by the city in partnership. And so we work with the county. One thing that we we've invested in our traffic management center over at our office, so we can see every signal and do troubleshooting on timings and otherwise from that management center. One of the things we upgraded at River and Maybank was both cameras and also real-time loops, so that we can actually make changes in real time instead of having to send somebody out there to make those pieces. Debbie is correct that the loops are cut right now, which don't allow us to make those changes in real time, and so that's corrected. When that is, then we can do all the retimings and otherwise. But in terms of retimings, that's done by the city. It's not done by the county, but the county has agreed in their project to upgrade the core of our signals to make sure that there's mast arms and something that looks nice with the improvements that are there.
Josh, you're awfully quiet over here. The DOT got anything to offer here? Ed? Okay. Y'all ready to move on to our next items on the list? Does that sound good? Anything else about the road? Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the chart that we had here and talk about the other non-road items. And here we go. So we start with the fire station that the city of Charleston has in its plans. Fire station near the intersection of Maybank Highway and River Road. The site has not been selected yet. It is on our capital improvements plan. It's estimated to cost upwards of $9 million. I think there actually may be a little bit of funding allocated towards it, but not the full amount there. Then the next item on the list is the Johns Island drainage study, which we'd like to conduct both joint city-county drainage study. We're estimating that would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million. However, that is not funded yet. That drainage study would probably give us some other drainage improvements to be made. We have done a kind of educated guess on this, extended easements, additional easement acquisition, additional capacity in the easements, additional drainage canals, potentially something in the neighborhood of $8 million. That may go up based on what the study shows, and those improvements are not funded at present. Then our Johns Island plan talks about a additional park on Johns Island in the city area up around Maybank, probably in the area closer to Maybank and River, because we already have a park near Maybank and Maine. And this would be a acquisition of a 30-acre site for active recreation. Again, PRC typically at their sites does more passive recreation, and all the city has more active play fields, baseball fields, soccer fields, basketball courts, things like that. The acquisition of the land based on current land prices for 30 acres would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of $9.75 million. Then to actually build the facility, grade the site, build roads, build parking concessions, things like that, we're estimating upwards of $20 million. So it would be a very major investment in park and recreational facilities. Those are the other projects that were on the list. So I'll get back to the mayor.
So on the drainage improvements that are mentioned there, the city has actually initiated a Johns Island study by Davis and Floyd. It's called a rain on grid model, and improvements specifically for the Barberry Woods area is included with the scope of work that Davis and Floyd is going to be doing. Did I say the right company? Yeah. And Laura can answer more questions about that if anybody would like. I would like to add on the fire station that we set aside $1.5 million to go ahead and acquire a site for the future fire station. It will require an additional bond, I believe, Councilmember Wagner, for us to pay for 2 more fire stations that we need, one here on Johns Island and one more over in the Cainhoy Peninsula in Berkeley County part of the city. The parkland acquisition, we'll be looking for sites through the end of the year, and we have the benefit of being able to use Greenbelt funds to purchase the land, even though in the past Greenbelt funds were pretty much exclusively for easements and passive uses. We believe we can purchase the property with Greenbelt funds, although any improvements that need to be made, like building a gymnasium or a community center, would be on the city. We would not be able to use Greenbelt funds for those kinds of park improvements or expenditures, but we would be able, upon application and approval from the county, be able to use some of our allocation for Greenbelt for this park acquisition. So it's always good, folks, to have a funding source when you're trying to get something done. I can tell you that. We're doing another recreation center in the city, and it's not a very big one, over on Daniel Island. It was something that the city promised in the development agreement there about 20 some odd years ago. It's about 20,000 square feet and includes one, full-size basketball court, and it's close to $10 million. I mean, these facilities do cost some money. So, what infrastructure improvements have we not mentioned that's on your mind, commission members? And of what have we spoken here that's hot on your mind?
Two things, Mr. Mayor. I would hope with the fire station that we're planning that we also include police in that station. Because with all the development and all the extra people coming onto the island, we definitely police protection on Johns Island. And I think that should be included as a one-stop shop where there's fire and police there in a mini station or something. That's one, my first thought. The second thing is the one that's really most important to me. It's nowhere mentioned on the sheet, and that's affordable or low-income housing. With all the development coming in, there are a lot of people that are not going to be able to afford to stay where they're at. The property taxes are going to go up. These houses are $300,000, $500,000 that are coming onto the island. We've got some poor people on this island, and I would like to see something done in the area of either low income or affordable housing as a priority. We really need to address that.
So on your first point on the police, great point, and that is what we would intend to do with this new station, is include a police substation along with it. We did a similar facility on Daniel Island, and in fact we included room for the county to have their emergency vehicle, their EMS. So we will offer that to Charleston County, that if they would like to include an EMS station along with our police and fire, it would be on their nickel, that they would be happy to do it. Our intent is to buy a piece of land big enough that would accommodate that. Now, on the affordable housing piece, City Council approved some money last year, a bond for affordable housing that has not been issued yet, because we've been working up sites and proposals, to put the money to work, and plus we were saving on costs for a year, to be honest with you. So that money can be spent anywhere in the city, and so if you have a site and a developer who does affordable product, we need to talk. We need to talk. We'd be happy to.
I don't have a developer, but I can tell you we need affordable housing.
Well, we can bring one. We've got a list of those folks who are interested in doing projects. They apply for these tax credits with the state. It helps make it happen. We can put the land into the deal, perhaps. So if you got a site, and maybe Joel, if I bounce back to the planning process that you're working on right now, if you identify a site that you think would be appropriate for affordable workforce housing, that would be terrific. Let us know. All right. Anybody else? Thomas or Mark?
In previous meetings, you've talked about that the city and the county were going to work together on drainage, specifically as a result of the study that was done in the Shadow Moss area. What can you tell us about the cooperation between the two between the two governmental agencies in that area?
Well, we've been sharing. We've been jointly doing some projects, and then we agreed on some that you take the lead on this or we take the lead on that. For example, the DuPont Wapu area drainage basin study is truly a joint project between the city and the county. Right now, though, the Signal Point Road on James Island project is being done by the county, and the Wamba drainage basin on James Island we're going to do jointly. We went ahead and started on the Johns Island drainage study, just a city initiative, but we do work with them collaboratively on all these things. And when we do, the way this works is you do an overall assessment and plan, and then you drill down on various drainage basins, and that's why we picked the Barbary Woods drainage basin first, because it's the drainage basin that we've heard the most about, impact from flooding and a project that needs to be done. So, what was the other thing I wanted to mention to you in response to that question? Laura, you want to add anything to that?
What I was trying to ask is, as I recall, that you were planning to take lessons that you learned from the study again in the Shadow Moss area and apply them to ordinances that were going to be drafted from a city standpoint. And as I recall, you were going to try and work with the county to coordinate with them to pass similar ordinances.
Thank you.
Where is that project?
Right. So last Tuesday night at a city council meeting, for the first time, we passed additional drainage requirements on developers within the Church Creek drainage basin. And a couple of the things that were included in that, for example, was not just no net fill, but if a cubic yard of fill is brought in, that 1.25 cubic yards of fill would have to be removed. So any future development would mean that you'd have to add capacity for water storage more than what you found, so to speak. In addition, for the first time, the city is requiring the porous nature of the fill. What's a good word for that?
So what we're requiring is that the fill material that's brought in has a certain specific perviousness or will absorb water at a certain specified rate for non-structural areas.
Is this limited to just the Church Creek area, or is this why? Why is it just limited to there?
Because we were focused on this area, and we're doing, as I mentioned at a prior meeting, a citywide stormwater manual upgrade that's being led not only by our staff, but we have a contract with AECom to do that with us. And presuming that these recommendations are good for Church Creek Basin, we will make them citywide along with other recommendations.
And again, how about coordination with the county? What's the progress on that?
I see us cooperating with the county like I've never seen before. We were on James Island about 3 weeks ago with city. We didn't bring the county drainage folks with us here tonight, but even down to maintenance items, the city, the county, the town of James Island, the public service district are all talking to each other and coordinating. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
You may not have the county drainage expert, we got the county planning director.
He's not a drainage guy. Do you want to speak to this issue?
I'm not just talking, I mean, I'm talking about ordinances, I'm talking about general planning, specific to drainage, but from a broader standpoint, what's the coordination between the county and the city in the drainage area, but as far as amending existing ordinances or proposing new ones?
So, from the county's perspective, the planning department's perspective, we sort of have a model, as the mayor said, with the DuPont WAPU, where we first have to fully identify and understand the problem, which starts with a full drainage study. On the list is a $2 million for the city and the county to do a joint study on Johns Island to find out the watersheds, how they work, and how we can improve the water getting off of the properties during development. There are ways to do that. Increase the pervious materials on a piece of property so that you're not stopping, but you're reducing the amount that's running off. Those are the types of things that we can address in ordinances as a property's developed. What we do know is that as far as the county drainage easements go, it's very disjointed from what I understand from our stormwater folks. We have a lot of drainage easements that are not connected up and do not follow all the way to an ultimate outfall. That's a major problem that we need to try to fix. That's what the study does. It looks at the easements that are in place. It looks at how those easements can be improved. It looks at the watersheds. And it takes all that into consideration, and then from those studies are recommendations on how to improve that. That's the first step. We got to find out the nuts and bolts issues out in the field, what's happening.
Is that underway right now with the county?
No, that's not funded for Johns Island. That's one of the non-funded ones.
It's been 3 years since the 1,000-year flood.
Right.
Why not?
I don't know the answer to that.
So another example is on the drainage conveyance or ditches or whatever. You know, when Shadow Moss was built, for example, they might have gotten away with a 20-foot wide easement. And our new requirement that we passed just last Tuesday was for 75 feet. Isn't that correct, Laura? It depends on the size. I think the minimum was 50 and up to 75 feet, and with the thought that, you know, a lot of these old easements, if we have them, if they even exist, we need to secure them if they don't. But if we ever put in a new one, to have plenty of room for a backhoe to be able to get in and maintain the facility, and that's been a challenge, because when these developments were done 40 and 50 years ago, it just wasn't properly planned. Mayor, did you want to add something?
I think that, to your question, I think the clarification that I was looking for, and maybe others in the room, is for these two projects, if this study was funded, if the drainage capital improvements were funded, in the first two meetings that we've sat in, I think probably 80% of the citizens' comments had to do with drainage issues and concerns about the impact of developers on drainage. If funded, are these projects directed at trying to address those kinds of concerns? Absolutely. Okay. So that would how would we get the funding from the city and the county? I mean, so you say you just don't have the money. Couldn't that be a request to the delegation to try to help you find some money for it? It's $2 million.
Representative Brown, we're always glad to get the support of Columbia. We do have a city drainage fund. So unlike what I've been explaining about roads where we don't have a funding source, we do have a funding source in the city for drainage projects and studies of this nature. That's how we're paying for the one with the county at Duwop, and how we're paying for the one on Johns Island. And that's how we're paying Davis and Floyd, who's really started this effort, even though it's not on the board here. We've contracted with Davis and Floyd. They're doing a Johns Island master plan right now to at least identify those drainage basins that need to be then, I guess, rifled down on, and that's when we'll need this additional funding. But the city has a source for this, and we've already started using it. And the county has drainage funds as well.
They have the stormwater.
Stormwater fee, that's right. All right, anybody over here?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Are the considerations about drainage, are these going to be just all dealing with future development, or is there retroactive decision that would be changing the code in such a way that even existing properties where flooding has been caused by buildings that have already been built, the practices that have already been in place, if that's going to be addressed or rolled back in some way?
Well, the way I understand it, when we change our stormwater manual, it's for new construction. You don't go back and, well, for example, we're going to raise, we're going to come in conformity with the county on going 2 feet above the base flood elevation as opposed to 1 foot that the county, that the city requires now. We're going to change that, I think, next month. And so you don't go back and ask everybody who built their house at +1 to now have to go elevate their house 1 foot. But if you build a new house, you got to bring up to the new spec. So it's really for new construction. Keith?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, things I know that we had spoken about with the county, and could be an opportunity that comes out of this committee. As you all know, we have the transportation sales tax and certain allocations to different types of projects, intersections improvements, bike ped improvements, resurfacing, et cetera, et cetera. There's a line item in there for specific to stormwater and drainage issues. Our understanding on the yearly allocation of requests that come from municipalities is only $500,000 that's in that line item allocation. And one of the things that, put on the table for something for the committee to discuss is, in the dollars that are allocated towards the sales tax, what should there be a high percentage that's allocated to that stormwater line item in terms of what's requested from local municipalities for that? I think that's an immediate place where there is dollars. It's not enough, and could be part of the conversation. The county council does have the right to term what those allocations are for each of those particular sections of resurfacing, of intersections, of bike ped, of stormwater and drainage. We don't have that control as a city, but that's the requests that could come out of this committee for the different entities that are involved if we want to talk about where there's immediate funds.
That's a good point. There's a county half-cent sales tax program for roads, includes $500,000 every year for drainage, and there's no reason why we couldn't apply, both city and county, to ask for some of that money for this purpose here. Isn't that right, Joel? So you got to ask first. I don't know about y'all, but when I was coming along, I didn't get kissed unless I asked. So we're going to have to ask more. So any other comments from the commissioners? Y'all good? What am I missing? Sidewalks? We hadn't talked about sidewalks.
Were you going to address Thomas's point about the impact fees in the municipality? Are you going to address that, or could you now?
We're going to the state legislature, right?
Oh, that we're going to go to.
We got to make it easier for cities to put an impact fee in place. So that does bring us up. to the discussion before I open up to public comment on funding. And Jacob, you want to take a crack at explaining what we're getting ready to propose with the municipal improvement district? Christopher, you want to go to that slide maybe that shows the funding sources?
Mayor, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming out this evening. So, as the mayor mentioned, the city does not have a dedicated fund nor staff for building roads or doing transportation projects specifically. However, we are looking into other methods to fund the construction of infrastructure, and one of those that we think may be viable here is called a municipal improvement district. Now, this is a tool which is available to cities in the state of South Carolina that creates a geographical area and then allows the municipality to assess a fee to development in order to create funds to build infrastructure. Now, it's not a tax in the conventional sense, and it doesn't go into a single dedicated, a single fund. The municipal improvement district must be tied to a specific list of projects when it is created. So the money that's generated by the MID is then dedicated to those specific things, just like the list of projects we're discussing tonight. Now, the MID is flexible in terms of the rate at which the fee is assessed and the term that it lasts. And most importantly, a municipal impact district cannot be imposed upon existing single-family dwellings. So if you own your home, that's your 4% property, the MID's not going to be imposed upon you like a tax. You would have to opt to get into it. But it can be imposed upon commercial developments. So that means that anyone who's doing real estate development or anyone who has a commercial project on Johns Island would be in effect paying the way for the impacts that they create. And we think that's a great tool that is flexible, and it's used by municipalities all throughout the state to do exactly this, to create funding streams to speed up the delivery of needed infrastructure. So that's the thing that we're currently looking at. And we're the planning department, but we also have our departments of legal and budget, finance, and revenue collections who are working together to assess whether a MID can work here, and we think that it can. What is the question is how much money could be generated by a MID and over what time frame? And we think that it's going to be more flexible than our conventional tools, which are tax increment finance districts or even impact fees. We think that the MID might be a better route. So we're currently exploring that, and what it would do is give the city a dedicated funding stream to deliver infrastructure that it did not have before. And that's something that we think could be unique to Johns Island and could help to fill the gap that we don't have funding for right now in this place. So that's what we're looking into with our municipal improvement district. And it's not a totally new thing. There in fact has been a municipal improvement district proposed for the Long Savannah project, which is a private MID, but it's not new. And then other cities throughout the state use this. Berkeley County uses them. City of Myrtle Beach uses them. So it's not an unheard of thing. So anyway, that's what we're exploring currently, and we hope to have a good sense about what this is going to do within the next month or so, depending on how fast our staff can work. So that's our current project, is exploring the MID, which would be a new tool for funding for infrastructure on Johns Island.
What's some examples of things you
Well, one of the great things about municipal improvement districts, the question was, what are some examples of things that could be funded with it? And one of the great things about municipal improvement districts is that they can be very flexible. And in essence, any type of infrastructure, whether it's traffic lights, roadways, drainage infrastructure, those things are all fair game. Now, again, a MID, when it's created, is tied to a list of projects, and that would be vetted, of course, with both our elected officials as well as with the public. It's not something that we would create without involving all the folks who live on Johns Island. So we would create a list and we would vet it just like we're doing right now, and even with more public involvement, if it turns out that the MID is a viable way for us to create new funds, which we hope that it will be. So in short, any type of public infrastructure could be on the table for funding with a MID.
30-acre park, that would be.
A park would be something you could do with it. Drainage infrastructure is something you could do with it. Intersection improvements, roadway improvements, all those things could be fair game.
So to buy the park, though, we try to utilize existing funds where they're available. Like if we use the Greenbelt Fund to buy the land, we'll use the Greenbelt Fund, and then we could use MID money if we wanted to build a community center gymnasium, for example, to go on the park. But if the Southern Pitchfork, for example, were number one priority, and we lobbied county council and got Representative Stabenakis to hold his committee out here, and we were not able to get the funding for it. For example, I'm hopeful we would, but if not, we could make that a priority on the bid list, correct?
That's absolutely right, Mayor. And I want to just make sure that everybody understands that we're in the process of looking at a bid. The city of Charleston ourselves have never run one of these, so we don't know how much money it could generate and over what period of time. So we're in an investigation phase, but we're going to come back and report back to this group and let y'all know how it's going.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
What areas are being considered for a municipal improvement district? Is Johns Island, or are there other areas that are also facing development in the city and the county?
So it would only be within our municipal boundaries, and so it would be basically the city of Charleston on Johns Island, everything basically within the urban growth boundary, I think.
That's correct, Mayor. That's what we're looking at with this mid, and we think one that's just tailored to Johns Island is what we really need for this place. It may be that if the tool works and it works here, we would do it in other places as well, but right now we're just looking here within our municipal boundaries. Just for the city of Charleston, that's correct.
Any other funding advice or comments from anyone? Still looking for Josh to chime in down here. Okay, I talked him into taking the microphone. We're here from DOT.
Good. Since I got the comment earlier that I wasn't speaking because I don't do anything, I figure I'll speak up. It's never been a more exciting time in terms of funding with the DOT, and that the motor vehicle tax that was passed, the increase, is stimulating our ability to do work. Specifically resurfacing, which y'all know our roads have been in a state of disrepair and declining. And this plan that the Secretary has done an excellent job in formulating and in obtaining the votes from the legislature to pass the motor fuel tax increase is going to be able to bring a lot of our roads in terms of resurfacing, repairing potholes, etc., up to a lot better conditions. It's also going to have a little impact in terms of rural road safety, which includes the Main and Bohicket Road corridors is identified for review to determine how we can reduce crashes on those corridors across the state. But most of the money will be going to resurfacing, and there's other pieces of money going toward freight and a little bit into some interstate widening projects. Now, unfortunately, that does not include intersection improvement type projects, capacity type projects on the local streets. There's still a gap there, and we're really fortunate in this area to have a lot of counties. I'm over 6 counties in the district, not just Charleston, and Dorchester, Berkeley, and Charleston all have 1 cent sales tax that is really able to do projects, because otherwise these intersection projects, these northern pitchfork projects, they wouldn't exist because the state does not have the funding for it. But I think we're moving in a great direction as far as DOT goes, funding-wise. The motor fuel tax is phased in over a 6-year period for a total of 12 cents per gallon added at the end of the 6 years to the motor fuel tax. And one of the reasons for phasing it in is the actual workforce. If we had the entire amount of funding from that 12 cents per gallon all at once, we wouldn't be able to spend it because there's not enough workers in the industry to actually work on the projects. Banks, construction, Sanders, construction, they're hiring as fast as they can. DOT, if you've got kids that are just coming out of high school, I think 10th grade education or above, we can use you in maintenance. Our ditching program is on a 6-year cycle, and part of that's due to the fact that we don't have the workforce. So we're hiring, and we're hiring daily, and you can go to our website and find those jobs for somebody that's just wanting to get into the industry. And of course the state is known for having some pretty good benefits and pretty stable job. So that's all I got, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here and provide a little bit of input. Thanks.
Any other commissioners? If not, and y'all, pardon me, I hadn't meant to be rude at all, but I was, this light was right in my eyes, and I wanted to facilitate the conversation amongst the commissioners up here. So now we'd be happy to hear your comments for a little while, I think about 30 minutes. And let me just share, if because otherwise we could be here all night. This is for you to make a comment, not a question and answer period. So we're not looking to have a discussion back and forth. There's a particular question you have appropriate, a roadway or a drainage issue. We've got staff here that could help you with that after comment period. So let's start with Christina White. She signed in first if she's here, and then Jervy Costa, I believe. Christina, are you here?
I'm here. I have kind of been out of the loop lately, but I just have a quick question, and I want to thank you all for being here, number one. And second to that, I would also like to thank everybody else for attending, because the community is here and showing their support. So my question, and you may or may not have time to answer it, is I was just wondering where Vic Roll and Miss Anna Johnson were at the moment, and why they were not in attendance tonight.
Well, Ms. Johnson called my office earlier this week and excused herself, said she had another commitment, wasn't able to attend. And I didn't speak with Chairman White before this evening, so I don't know. Right, I don't know. Thank you. Jervy Cost? Yes, sir. Would you like to take the microphone so everyone could hear you?
I'm really concerned about the drainage on Maybank Highway. All the pipes and all that stuff has been like that for years. And we've called the people and they say, go to the county says go to the state. So I finally got the state. They told me 3 years ago they're going to put me on the list to do it. And I've called them the last 3 weeks and they told me I was still on the list. So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to get my backhoe out there and start digging all the ditches up? All the ditch to drain it? I can remember you saying that you would help our own self by doing that. I can't do that. Yeah, I don't have the ability to go along and take the water lines, telephone lines, and all that's going to take care of doing that.
So, can I ask you to get with Ms. Cavanis and give her your address? Are you in the city or the county? You don't know. We're going to find out for you, Mr. Cost, whether you're in the city or the county. You find the right person.
I've always been in the county, but I heard and they extended to the city.
All right, we're going to figure that out. We can figure that out. Ms. Laura Cavanis will help you at the end of the meeting. Sam Brownlee, Sam, where are you? Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to thank you personally for supporting the Sea Island Residents Sidewalk Project. On August the 2nd, I came upon a gentleman laying on the ground due to an accident that lived in that housing project, and he's all right, but we need those sidewalks. Representative Brown is supporting this project. Johns Island Council, the Watermore Plan Commission. I don't know where it stands with the city of Charleston. I'm sorry, with Charleston County. Do you have any information on that, Dave?
That's the one that you gave me. I gave it to Eric. That package you gave me, I did give to Eric for the CPC meeting.
Okay, is it still on for September the 11th?
We can check. She actually is on the
Okay, I didn't see it on the website.
The city did submit it as a priority project within the CTC, so we're just waiting for the county to do the review process, but we did submit it as one of our top 3 priorities.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. The second thing I think may have been answered is about Maybank Highway. From Walter Drive to Crown Development, if you ride along that road and you don't know how to dance, this is how you'll be doing. Not trying to be funny. That's the truth. That's the worst paving job I've ever seen. Felt, I should say. But it needs to be corrected. Pastor Squire has called the highway department and nothing's been done about correcting the highway. The third thing is I'd like to see the city of Charleston have a meeting out here. Had one, I guess, about 3 years ago. Where's Marvin? That was right there. 2 years ago, okay, at the Johns Island High School. The other thing is, coming off of the Stonewall Bridge, there was a sign there for Paul Delgados, a wonderful House of Representative. I noticed that the contractor doing the job for the abutments damaged that sign. I called Banks to tell them about it. They said they'd fix it, and the sign hasn't been put up yet. And I don't expect the taxpayers to pay for that. Banks Construction Company should pay for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brownlee. Jason Crowley. Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of this committee. Thank you all for your time. This has been a long meeting and very informative, very productive. I wanted to start by saying how pleased I was to hear that there was discussion and communication about the possibility of being able to use some of the half-cent sales tax projects to address some of our drainage problems. The Coastal Conservation League has been involved with about 15 other organizations throughout Charleston County called Fix Flooding First that has dedicated to look at all forms of funding to address drainage in our region, local, state, and federal. And one of our first goals was to try and raise awareness of the ability to be able to use use half-cent sales tax to address some of our flooding related to transportation projects. So I was very pleased to hear that. I also wanted to raise the concern that I've seen this week and heard over and over tonight about the Southern Pitchfork. Earlier this year, we still had commitment from the property owner who owns the land on the Southern Pitchfork that he was willing to donate that right-of-way if Charleston County and the city of Charleston could come up to an agreement to move that project forward. I don't know if that's still the case, but we need to make sure that both arms of the Pitchfork move forward and are fully funded. This is something that's been studied over and over and over again. Tens of thousands of dollars have been spent studying this project since 2007, 2008, 2009. I'm glad to see that the Northern Pitchfork is moving forward. That's a great step in the right direction, but we need to have all of our infrastructure working together to make sure that the people of Johns Island actually have a solid quality of life and are not just sitting in traffic on the bridge all day long. So I hope that we can continue working towards that goal. And thank you so much for everything else that was discussed tonight and all the other priorities that were identified.
Thank you, sir. John Zlogar? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions about roads, and I know you said talk with the staff later on, but I kind of want to address everybody because you're setting the strategy for things. First one is Maine Bohicket, and it is Maine Bohicket in this particular case because you've got 3 phases there. And what seems obvious to me is you're missing actually Maine Bohicket. In other words, the intersection with Maybank. When school's in session, Maine backs up for over a mile from past Chisholm all the way over. So I'm just wondering why you haven't broken it into 4 phases. That phase, I don't think has any wetlands on it. If you think about it from Maine Bohicket, from Chisholm to Angel Oak, that area to me is after 17 is the most densely, dense amount of traffic during rush hour. Have you considered breaking that up into 4 phases and going after that one now?
No, we were asked to keep it as one, and then when we got hired consultant, he recommended so that we could get immediate improvements to segment A done, that's the segment A.
Right, no, I understand.
I think you got a good point, and I think we could talk, I believe that is in the city, that they can request that as part of our allocation.
Yeah, okay, so it's really, when you think about the intersection, it's all the way from at least Chisholm to all the way to Angel Oak. It's not just a little intersection. So if we could put that as a second priority as opposed to Bohicket, that'd be fantastic.
Right, well, council approved the 3 segments, but like I said, we could look at the intersection improvement project.
Yeah, we can use common sense too and change it. The other thing is the first phase of that, which is from Beast Ferry to River Road. I guess I was somewhat surprised that then the intersection of River Road and Main River Road and Chisholm is not part of that.
It would have to be part of it.
It shows as a separate item that I think wasn't funded yet.
No, they have designed or came up with a roundabout concept. We will have to make improvements to that intersection with 7A. We will have
Oh, okay, so that you're not leaving,
So,
yes, you'll have to,
we
yes.
can have our consultants look at their concept from a traffic analysis standpoint. We'll definitely work with them, see if that is the best to improve traffic flow and safety. We can certainly look at that.
So that'll be part of the whole 17, main 17 effort at one time?
Yes, yes, we would have to make intersections.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Joyce Newman?
I'd like to address two of the transportation things you have, the Pitchfork and also the intersection at Main and River and Chisholm. First thing is the Pitchfork. The original suggestion, which you all know, was to have a one-lane road from River to Maybank and another one from Maybank to River, maybe a yield sign and some traffic flow. That was the original, is that right? Am I correct on that? That was the original suggestion to be made. Okay, the southern Pitchfork has been dropped. The northern Pitchfork, the city planners have felt necessary to add a sidewalk from the Fenwick entrance all the way down to the bridge, a traffic light on Maybank Highway, a roundabout within the Pitchfork that will serve the Fenwick development entrance, widen the road with parallel parking along the side, along that, another traffic light at River Road, which will serve another Fenwick development across River Road, apartments and some wetlands. The only thing that's holding that up now is the permit from the Corps of Engineers to fill in some wetlands for their road. So we're already having problems with the traffic light at the intersection of Maybank and River. So we're going to put 2 additional traffic lights on Maybank and River. Hopefully they will work better. So I just questioned the need for adding all of these different things to the northern Pitchfork when it will only save 3 minutes, according to the traffic survey, for traffic coming from Maybank to River. I think that this $4 million for this Pitchfork seems excessive to me for that 3 minutes. The other thing I would like to address, could you put the visual for the Main Chisholm River intersection back up? If you put the original, okay, all right, this is the original. The problems we're having here is with the yield sign with a right turn lane from River Road onto Main Road. That's where the confusion comes in. You could solve that problem very easily by putting the right turn lane behind that tree on the corner, moving that yield sign further down so it's away from the intersection. The confusion comes because some people think the yield sign is covered by the traffic light. It's not. People can turn right on red or green as long as there's no oncoming traffic. So all you got to do is make a little right turn lane and put a yield sign. Now, would you put the city planners intersection up? This is an expensive roundabout, and if you'll notice, the people coming out of Chisholm Road have no traffic light, no sign. They have to cross 4 lanes of traffic to turn left to go down Main Road. This is an insane plan.
It's going to be in the county's hands to decide. They're not crazy. Okay, they'll figure it out. Okay, Barbara Lucy. Barbara.
Thank you all for coming. This is just Joanne Q. Public looking at everything. The flyover at 17 is mandatory. North and South Pitchfork, mandatory. The widening of Main to Maybank, Bohicket to Betsy Harrison can be taken care of with a turn lane. A lot less money, a lot less environmental impact. A turn lane would be the responsible thing to do. as far as $2 million for a city-county drainage study, with the amount that we pay in stormwater drainage fees,
Right.
and the fact that it seems to me that you would get out there first and clear these drainage ditches, clear these canals, get them clear, and then do your study. It's ridiculous to do a study first without having these ditches and canals cleaned first. You cannot get an accurate idea of where water is going without that.
Thank you very much. So, just to let y'all know, if you live in the city and have any kind of thing to report, from cleaning a ditch to getting your trash can, we now have one phone number you can call for any kind of city-related request, 724-7311. It's our customer service desk, 724-7311. Mark Adams, and then Lori.
Thank you all for coming out here tonight. I'd also like to thank the mayors of Seabrook and Kiowa for representing their citizens.
Hold the mic up a little bit.
I live in Charleston County, so it appears I don't have representation or true representation here tonight. Just a couple of comments. One, do we look at the root cause of all this traffic on the island coming on and going off in the mornings and afternoons? A lot of it may be cured if we do a multi-use development or affordable housing, so that we don't have contractors that service the golf courses or the residents' pools or yards down in Kiowa and Seabrook. If they live in the area, we don't have that traffic. Even on Saturdays, Bohicket, Maine is backed up from 9 to about 6, depending on which direction you're going, because the vacation rentals switch over on Saturdays. So you have heavy traffic then. Trees on River and Bohicket, I think those are state roads, so I'm not sure who's maintaining those, but it seems as though we're using semi-trucks to clear the overage. And the problem is, if it rains, the branches get heavier, the semi-trucks hit the branches, and then it comes onto the cars following the vehicle. So whoever's contracted to service those trees, there's dead branches hanging on River, just waiting to fall. And same thing with Bohicket. So if we could have somebody take a look at that. The South Pitchfork, I mean, the improvements that have been made so far are great. But the one lane off the island, it's already obsolete. We already know that. We should have agreed to do it during this project, but we were told that the city and the county couldn't agree. Mr. Rawls said in a meeting here last year, it was the best they could do. Well, if it's the best you could do, go back to the drawing board and get it right the first time. Don't make us, as the citizens, pay the pain of having to sit in traffic when it could have been alleviated or taken care of. I hear I'm new to Johns Island, 10 years. I hear about these trees, just go on the other side of the trees. Just to develop the 2 other lanes on the other side of the trees, just like they did farther down the road. Yes, sir.
Trying to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Like an ice cream cone.
I'm sorry. All right, impact fees, we've already discussed that. We'd like to see that cover this area. And since I don't have a representative here, I live in the interior island, part of the island. I had an opportunity to buy a house at Seabrook or Kiowa. I decided not to, based on the speed limit getting out of their subdivision, and the number of gates would have added 20 minutes to my daily drive. So I purchased a house on the interior of the island. So those of us that live on the interior of the island don't want a highway going through our property or near our property. You have noise pollution, sound pollution, the dust that's created by roads or cars going on the highway, and if it's elevated, then you're going to hear the roads making that noise every time it hits one of the expansion joints. Right. So, but again, I appreciate you guys coming out here. The gentleman, I'm not sure whether he's still here, had suggested maybe you all come out here, maybe on an annual basis to do some type of meeting. That's great. And you may want to look at you had the overlay meetings, you had 2 overflows, right? Filled to capacity, but this meeting is not filled to capacity, so you may want to find out why this meeting is not as well as attended as the other ones.
Right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Sure.
Lori Ann.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can we all get an assurance from the county and the city until all these road projects, drainage projects are complete, at least 5 years from now, maybe they'll get, some of them will get complete, that there's a moratorium on issuing any more residential building permits? Permits in the hopper that were permitted back in 2009. Has anybody gone back over these permits to see if they're still valid, if things have changed? But there's 7,000 residential units. We can't get on and off the island now during rush hour. So please, moratorium on issuing any more permits until the roads are sorted out.
Thank you for everyone coming, both the committee and the community members that have come out tonight. The county comprises about 80% of Johns Island. And unfortunately, as many people have commented, we have no representation here. And I think we need to make that as a priority as a community. My second question is, I'm a little confused because we seem to be willing to spend a lot of money on drainage studies. And it seems to me we need to consider not building in the floodplains and the wetlands. As part
Thank you. Bill Dustin.
Hi, and thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate your coming out here. But I have to tell you, I'm sitting here listening to the Johns Island Growth Committee, and all I hear is roads, 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 and more roads. I sort of feel like I'm lost in some sort of a fairy tale instead of real life, and I can't figure it out if it's Dr. Zeus the Lorax or Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes. And the people here are really hurting, and they're being hurt every day. And on James Island, too, and in the east side, they're being flooded. These are serious issues. And we're sitting here and talking about 10-year projects going away when there are kids living in sheds and trying to get away from the mold in their houses and stuff like that. I mean, the houses are being flooded. Drainage is only half a word. You know, it's really ecology. It's really hydrology. It's not just drainage. It's not, oh, let's get rid of that bad water because we got to fix our ditches. No, it's the whole ecology. And the city keeps improving more and more developments. And the developers are just rolling on, destroying the place. The mayor comes out here and speaks of programs and projects and roads and money. Well, Johns Island is disappearing. So where's the political will for all you guys to really step up to the bench and do the right thing? I asked this in an op-ed piece about 8 months ago. Who's going to belly up to the bar and do the right thing? And I'd like to leave you with a couple words that were on Ted Turner's desk, you know? Lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. Woo!
Good afternoon. My name is Blaine Charge. I've been living in Johns Island for almost 12 years, but I moved off, came back because of my husband. But it's sad that we all are here. We got little kids, grandkids, kids that went up to college. We want to walk in the neighborhood, we can't walk. The ditches need to be digged. You got some people dig ditches and got pipes running from their ditch into the road. You can't walk. You don't have police protection like we want to. You gotta get security or different things. I had a pet, well, we neighborhood had a pet that got killed. We have speed bumps, and it's a rooster, Ruru. So you tell me a car speeding and hit a rooster. 3 weeks ago, me and my grandson was walking. We almost got hit by a car. Yes, I called. I called 3 different places. They put me on hold. I'll call you back, or I get somebody to call you. Then they're gonna say, well, we backed up. And the ditch part, my husband digging, he said he's not digging no more ditch because that's not his job. The reason why he's digging the ditch, because it's sad to see snakes and different animals in other people else's yard. But we pay our bills too, sewer and everything else. And it's not fair for us not to get the right service. I thank y'all, and y'all have a blessed evening. And just remember that God is in control. Money is not everything, but God is in control.
Amen.
Y'all have a blessed evening.
Do you live in the city or the county? Do you know?
I live in the city.
Okay.
I used to live in the county. I moved from the county and moved in the city. Moved back to the county, now moved in the city and not
I'm
the
just
county.
letting you know I got one number, and they won't run you around to a bunch of other numbers,
But
okay?
my neighbor
And
got the number.
I'll be
Got
glad
the
to
number.
give that to you. Mary Bull.
Thank you for coming tonight. Really fun one here. I would like to suggest you save part of your $2 million on your drainage study and let our citizens do it. Dr. Dunstan has done an amazing job, and we have Fix Flooding First. They can teach you where the water drains and what you need to fix. Also, in looking at where the drainage is going in the future, are we looking at where the drainage has gone in the past that you've messed up? Ooh! Do you know that, Mayor? Is anybody looking at that part of it?
Where we messed up in the past?
Yeah, where the flooding is currently. Are we going to do something to fix that?
That started almost 350 years ago when we first settled here and started filling out.
My other question is,
They built houses around it.
could we have a show of hands of how many people are here that are in the county with no representation here, with the exception of employees? So, I mean, I would hope that you would relay this message back to the county representations from us, that we do come out. And along with Aaron Howley, could he let us know why the website no longer has Vic Rawls' name on it? He put this group together. He picked all the members of it. He did all this stuff, and it appears that he has dropped out of sight. I'm sorry, it's not right.
I think he's in jail. He was not. All right. Thank you very much. Deborah Moore. Deborah here. Okay, Tony, is it Bunch or Brunch? Branch? Sorry, Tony.
It's all right. Tree Branch. Thanks for being here, Mayor. I've been a resident of Johns Island for 19 years, and I hope I haven't infringed on any of the long-standing Johns Islanders' ways. I'd like to take a survey of how many people here are from Wadmalaw Island. Show your hands, we got one. Anybody here from Seabrook? Besides the mayor? Got 1, 2. About Kiowa? This isn't a Johns Island problem that we're here discussing. We got 4 islands that are using these roads, and all 4 islands need to get in on this problem and try to solve it. And I got a little pet peeve I want to give before I shut up. When you come over to Stonewall Bridge, on the right, on this new development, there's a sidewalk. They made a nice sidewalk to Fenway Alley, from the bridge to the sidewalk. But there isn't anything on the other side of Fenwick to get you to River Road or down River Road to Maybank. And we got all this mega construction going on. They've got all the equipment to build that sidewalk, but for some reason they left out the other half of River Road from Fenwick Alley to Maybank. And this is, everybody knows that Johns Island is not a very pedestrian-friendly island. If you drive around, you'll see a lot of crosses and crucifixes on trees and so forth. And the people of this island really needs a little more respect and something simple as a sidewalk just to get them safely too, because a a lot of people like to walk and ride bikes on Johns Island, but it's a suicide waiting to happen, so anyhow. Thanks for your time.
I don't
Yes,
have a
sir.
microphone, I'm kind of loud anyway. I noticed today in front of the Speedway, there is I'm assuming bike lane in between the right-hand turning lane and the lane is going to go straight ahead, so I'm assuming that they're going to stripe it so the bike lane will be right in the middle of the two lanes, is that correct?
In the middle of the
Our project does have shoulders wide enough to accommodate bicyclists, because there is a sidewalk and then it does turn into a multi-use path. And we will continue the sidewalk with the northern pitchfork, so it will tie in, but then again, it, ends at River and there's nothing on River Road, so that will need to be funded in the future as well.
But right now, it's in between the two lanes, am I not correct? Did anybody else notice that stripe is on?
There's no permanent striping down right now. All the permanent striping and configuration will be in place once the project is complete. If you go to the Maybank Improvement website, you can see what it looks like.
All right, folks, well, it's well
Mayor,
after.
Mayor, we had one last sign up as well.
Oh, okay, great.
Julie
Beer?
So I'll be kind of brief, but I've been living on this island for 20 years, and I have 4 kids that go to Buist Academy in the city. And being a mom, working mom that lives on Johns Island, I'm really that we're talking about big fixes and forgetting the small fixes. Let me give you some solutions. Today I took a road, I was sitting on Maybank. It usually takes me an hour to get from Maybank to Publix, where my kids get picked up. But I found this road, and I think it is a city road. It's called Velasco Drive, and it connects Maybank to Kane/Road. I have a Volvo that's an SUV. This road has grass on it. Part of it has a few pebbles on it. It's not a very big fix, but if somebody were to put some stones on that road, that road saved me 15 minutes of time.
Somebody's yard?
Okay, well, whatever it is, it saves me 15 minutes of time. But thinking about these secondary roads, instead of building these big old, waiting, 10, 20 years, and just, finding out these secondary roads and like adding pebbles to it, I think would just save people like me that have to go to work and have kids to drop off, a lot of time and money. So I think of, working on the small fixes. So that was a private road, but it works. So if anybody wants to use it, go ahead. 15 minutes.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, don't come down my private road.
Which one do you have?
I'll tell you right now, I'm just saying, if it's a private road, you're not supposed to be trespassing on private roads. See, there's a difference between private and public.
Okay, well, I guess we need more roads that, provide those, what's that?
Intersect and connect.
That intersect and connect, not these, half-patch jobs that I'm hearing from several of these people. Another thing is that we build sidewalks. I'm going on from Bohicket to Kiowa. And in these 20 years, I've noticed that there's great upkeep as the sidewalks near Seabrook and Kiowa. But that state road that connects Ghana Street to Hot Gap remains overgrown with grass and things like that. And these are where poor people live, old people live. And I don't understand, it's a state road that we fund with our taxpayer dollars, but nobody's edging those sidewalks. We've paid millions of dollars, but nobody's keeping those things up. So I'm thinking, why don't you work on the projects that you've started and, just work on fixing them versus trying to create new projects. So I think, we need to spend, save money because we're running over budget. So my take is, try and do more with less. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, committee, commission members. I appreciate your participation in all this. And citizens, thank you for coming out tonight and sharing with us your priorities and concerns. We wouldn't be here, folks, if we weren't working on this stuff and interested in working on it. So, let's stick together and do what we can together to fix some of this infrastructure out here. I know it's a long time coming, but I wouldn't be here tonight if we weren't working on. God bless y'all. Thank you for coming.
I loved Bottle Chevrolet. I wish I could have spent more time. I've never been. I know, I've been wanting to go forever. I never. I think it's great. Yeah. And the grounds, and the garden, the vistas. Yes. Oh, I know. It's great.
Over and over. They've done an amazing job with the beautification of everyone.
Right. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Good to hear it's your favorite spot.